you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, and welcome to our Raleigh Transit Authority meeting for December 10th. We're going to call this meeting to order at 3:35 p.m., December 10th, 2020. I'm going to start with the governor's orders. The governor has issued executive orders requiring individuals to remain in their homes except for certain activities, closing many businesses to the public and prohibiting many gatherings which do not comply with its terms. Because of the risk to the public that would arise from continuing in-person meetings pursuant to NCGS 166A-19.24, the city is converting Raleigh Transit Authority meetings to a remote electronic format for the duration of the state of emergency. I'm going to go ahead and call a roll. Please answer by saying present. Nathan Spencer.
Present.
Karen Ringe.
Present.
Michael Stevenson.
Present.
Christopher Jones. Daniel Coleman.
Present.
Morris Cook.
Present.
Brian Burnett. Joshua Gill.
Present.
And our two alternates, Ms. Sarah Prado and Mr. Robert Owens.
Present.
Do we have a city council liaison with us, Corey Branch? And I, of course, Tallulah Pay, Omokaye is present as well. I thought I was my mama for a second, forgive me. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into our agenda. Do we have any, I'm sorry?
Madam Chair, is Michael here today?
That is Daniel Coleman speaking. Yes, Michael Stevenson is here today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, do we have any additions or revisions to the agenda as it's been presented to us?
Madam Chair, I have two questions about updates that I'm wondering if they can be included in the agenda if there's time. One is the marketing committee did not meet this month, and I would like to know the status of the proposed name change with the city council from the Raleigh Transit Authority to the Go Raleigh Transit Authority. If staff can give us an update on that real quick.
All right, we can go ahead. Sorry.
And then I had one other addition, which was a follow-up to last month's presentation by the Planning Commission staff. I'm sorry, Jason from the Planning Department about the equitable development along transit. They were going to be presenting some proposals for amendments to the comprehensive plan to the city council, I believe, or maybe it was to the Planning Commission, and I'm not clear on which that was, but in any event, since we had such a good presentation at our last meeting, I would very much appreciate any information from our RTA staff on what happened with any of those the proposals with the city council and or the planning commission, if that's possible. Then maybe that needs to be next month, I don't know, but if there's any information on how that went, I'd like to know.
Okay, I would suggest, and that was Karen speaking, I would suggest us move that to our committee report. So for the marketing committee, since there wasn't a meeting this month and there is still space on the agenda for that, maybe we can discuss those two things there. David? Or...
Yes, that sounds fine with us. I can certainly address both.
Okay.
Right. That's to see that we don't have any extra movement. We also wanted us to, do we have any motion on approving the minutes from last month's meeting?
So move.
Second.
All right, can you state your name if you make the motion to move in second, please, for the record?
Daniel Coleman made the motion to approve the minutes from last month.
And Karen Ringe seconded the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. I'm going to run through the roll. All in favor say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Nathan Spencer.
Aye.
Karen Ridge.
Aye.
Michael Stevenson.
Sorry, aye.
Daniel Coleman.
Aye.
Morris Cook.
Aye.
Joshua Gill.
Aye.
That's an aye for me as well. The minutes for the November meeting have been approved. All right, and then we're going to move into our first. Do we have any public comments today? I'm sorry, Andrea.
We have no public comments today received. I also wanted to let you know that Sarah Pardo has joined the meeting.
All right, for the
Thank
record.
you.
Thank you. Sarah Prado is present for the record. All right, let's jump right into it. So it looks like we have our route committee information.
Hey, I can go through the agenda for route and give everyone a quick update what we covered. It was just our chair and I for that meeting. I'd like to remind folks that we meet on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. There's been a lot of push for involvement and engagement and getting word out about BRT and having input on how things run. The only way that we get input is by attending these meetings. So please, if you're interested in having a say in that, please attend these meetings. We had 3 things that we discussed at route. First was the R-line service reduction. This was brought up to the board last month and sent over to route to discuss. Staff presented a fairly good argument on what they needed to do and provided some backup information for that, and are requesting a approval by this body to set up the beginning steps of reducing service. David, Eben, do we need a vote from the whole board today?
Let me request Mr. Walker, if he's there, exactly what's needed.
That would be up to the route committee chair. We did have 2 at the beginning of the route committee meeting, but the board chair ended up having to drop off the call, so we did not have a quorum for the committee to vote. If Mr. Spencer wants to roll through the items that we've provided in the committee, he could do that and then request a vote if the board members felt that was appropriate.
I may be mistaken, but I do believe that we had a vote at the committee meeting to move it forward. There was at least a general consensus between the 2 of us that that the plan to move forward with a reduction of the R-line service was sufficient. The idea is that the staff will start to look at what needs to happen to do that, and then return to the board in February to for a final approval to actually suspend service and set up a signage to do so. The service would not be suspended until at least February, if not longer, in later. And the idea basically being that service ridership is exceedingly low right now, and other routes are picking up a lot of that service, and with fares suspended as well, all routes are free. So the suggestion was that we suspend the R line until it is safe to start bringing back service, and and staff has a number of benchmarks. I'll go through them real quick. Basically, the benchmarks would be based on the people, the amount of ridership and pedestrian access, people walking around the return of service and ridership. So it's the opinion of the committee was that this was a acceptable point to suspend service and acceptable reasons to bring it back, or decisions to bring it back. The committee did ask about having it, when it does come back, having a discussion about it coming back in slightly different form depending on where we sit. But right now, it's the recommendation of the committee to allow staff to move forward with suspending our line service and make a final vote in front of the board in February. If we don't need a vote, then I'm just going to continue with the update.
Mr. Spencer, yeah, I would actually request, there are some procedural things that we would have to do in order to suspend service. So a clear direction from the board, even though we may bring back additional information, and the board could certainly change their mind through that process. But a vote by the board would allow us to have clarity as we move forward with some of the preparation work that we have to put forward in order to cancel service, even though it might be temporary.
I'd like, if we're going to take a vote, for staff to present at least the benchmarks, so that the board can be well informed on what sort of are the guardrails for suspending service and bringing it back, so they can make an informed vote.
Okay. Can I ask a question? Daniel Coleman.
Go ahead.
What's going to happen to if we suspend the service? What happens to the staff that supports the service? Like the drivers and stuff like that. What happens?
Yes. So within that particular element, that was covered in our existing bid that went out. So it was announced that route was or could be canceled. So basically, people are, as they chose runs, knew that route might not be available. It would not impact staffing levels. However, it would impact the actual route being available to choose in the future if we were to cancel it for a period of time.
So I'm confused. Please bear with me. Do we have drivers that will lose their salary, any parts of their salary, if we discontinue a route because they chose that route? Is that what you're saying?
As through the bid process, we would not cancel the route unless the bid process already cleared the route from that process. Due to natural attrition, due to the number of drivers that we have, there would be no loss of anyone not receiving guaranteed 40 hours a week as everyone is through the existing arrangement there.
Okay, all right. The other stuff, the route committee will explore in detail and give us the supplemental reports back to the board, right, Nathan?
Well, no, we already explored it with staff, and we recommended that staff continue to move forward preparing for a suspension of service in February or March.
Do you have any idea of what those routes are right now, so we can sort of get positioned for any heat that's going to come off of this?
This is just the R line.
Just the R line?
Just the R line. So this is not any other service. And as long as service throughout the system is free, it doesn't change the impact on people's bottom line. And as I mentioned, the service area of the R line is covered fairly well by other services. So it is possible for someone to make their way around. The other thing we discussed was waiting until mid to late February, early March before suspending that service, so that the weather could start to warm up, so we don't have folks walking across the city in the cold.
Right. Oh yeah, I understand, and I think that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I know our line was definitely discussed largely because of the, it's a free route.
Yeah.
Like Nathan said, is overlapped by other routes. We were discussing in authority meeting not long ago about whether or not we would find alternatives to go with our line.
Right.
Like some of that, not Lyft, and probably can't use that terminology, but something along that ride share cab type of service. I'm also happy that we're waiting until February, March when the weather starts to kind of warm up, because we know that some of the people that ride our line are homeless. And we know, especially with COVID and housing insecurities mounting, that we need to at least do what we can to provide at least a little bit of service and support, even if it's them having a warm ride for a little bit. But the fact that it is free, the fact that we are not, with our regular routes, we're experiencing a lot of loss in revenue with COVID, with lack of ridership, with lack of, capacity on the buses. I think it is a good idea for us.
I got you.
Nathan, this is Karen Ringe. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Maybe this is just because we haven't talked about it in many months, but I'm wondering how, if we're suspending service or if we do suspend service, where does the whole plan for the whole change in the R-line route stand with all of this? I mean, have we begun that
Yes.
route yet? And
This
is
is
that
Nathan.
being yeah, go ahead.
The new route has already been implemented. It was implemented, I believe, late last year, early this year. But it is currently running. The part that's been impacted significantly by the downturn, by the change in service in general, and ridership, has been the looking at an e-cab service that our chair mentioned. That part has been put on hold so far, and that's what the committee asked staff to explore a little bit as they talk about bringing service back up and reinstating, to start figuring out how to put a pilot together to begin with. Do folks feel like they need a presentation by staff, or do they feel confident based on this discussion to take a vote?
I feel like,
Daniel Goldman says move to vote, huh?
yeah, if this has gone through the root committee, that's your job. So you've reviewed the data. So
I appreciate that confidence. All right. So Danny, you made a motion to move, and I'll second that motion to ask staff to prepare suspension of service of the R line beginning in February or March, and for staff to return to this body before actual suspension of service be instated.
I want to just say that because the attorney is listening, that I did make that motion that Nathan just spelled out, but he just spelled it out much more clearly than I did. So moved. Daniel Coleman.
The meeting.
Thank you. The motion has been moved and properly seconded by Nathan and Daniel. I'm going to read off the roll. Please say aye if you approve and nay if you don't, or yay and nay. Nathan?
Aye.
Karen?
aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
Morris?
Aye.
Joshua?
Aye.
And I for Tallulah as well. I want us to we have some more information from Route. I apologize. I want to interrupt.
Yeah, just two items quick. Staff started the discussion regarding reinstatement of fares. This is what staff referred to as very, 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 very early conversation with us. We did not get far in the discussion about it, but it's going to be a long time, I think, before we bring them back on. But just to let the body know that it's slowly being discussed, and joining us at those meetings will probably help to get some voices in on what needs to happen should fairs come back, or what makes that possible. The last thing we discussed was there was a comment from the public to route with regards to Western Boulevard, and the question of whether the public and stakeholders will have a voice in where the bus runs, whether it's median or in business lane. Staff suggested that we're in the early stages of any of that, so none of those decisions have been made, but it was noted that that folks are chomping at the bits to start discussing Western Boulevard and how that gets done. I, for one, am putting my voice out there saying that we should definitely have dedicated lanes, and we should talk about if we're going to pull median in Newbern, then we're probably going to need to look at pulling median on Western. So that is the details of route, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Nathan. If anybody has any questions for Nathan and the route committee, please announce yourself as you unmute to ask your question. Okay, well, if there aren't any questions, I want to take a brief moment and pause, and I should have added this to the beginning, I guess, of the agenda, but since I think it's a good segue from route. So we know that the general manager of Go Raleigh, Marie Parker, is leaving us to go on to greater pastures and opportunities. Go Raleigh General Manager Marie Parker has been selected by Cape Fear Public Transportation Board of Directors as its new executive director. She's going to begin her new job in her new role on December 7th. She's been with Go Raleigh for 21 years. For the past 5 years, she served as the general manager. Before that, she served as the assistant general manager, director of operations, director of finance and budgeting, as well as a financial analyst for Go Raleigh. So she has climbed her way. Throughout Parker's time with Go Raleigh, she has worked to pursue innovative mobility securement technology, enhance safety and security. Oh, bless you. Enhance safety and service for customers, and increase system efficiency through improvements in the one-time performance system-wide. In addition, she has improved customer satisfaction through establishment of driver, ambassador, and personnel training programs. This year alone, Parker has facilitated Go Raleigh's receipt of the North Carolina Public Transportation Association's Transit System of the Year Award and the North Carolina Public Transportation Association's Transit Safety Award. So I want to take a moment to thank Maria for her service. Excuse me, Maria, I keep calling you Maria by mistake. I want to take a moment to thank Ms. Parker for her service with Go Raleigh. Wish you the best in your future endeavors. I know that she has some people who have worked with her in a more.
And I'd like to see that flag. Did you have that flag, David? Or is that something later on? Am I still muted?
No, we can hear you. I was telling, this is Tallulah Pay. I was telling David to lower it to his shoulder so we can see the plaque because it's a black background.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
This is Joshua. Thanks so much for all you've done here, and best of luck at WAVE.
I would like to just add, even though I kind of read something, to kind of piggyback on what Nathan said, understanding that transit, as I've learned, is a very passionate space. And we functioned in that. We functioned in that fully because of our responsibility to the ridership. So I do appreciate that you obviously fully understand that you're a veteran with transit, and Go Raleigh. And as you move on, we thank you for your time, your talent. We thank you for putting up with us and our passion as there have been changes to the authority surely over the last 21 years. And there's been different personalities to deal with, different directions, different, intentions and missions and all of that good stuff from each individual. So I'm sure that you've taken those and rolled with the punches. I appreciate you being a professional about some of the dealings that we've endured here with RTA. I appreciate your professionalism. I appreciate your patience. And I definitely want to salute you for your service and wish you well as you go on to do even greater things.
Everyone for the recognition. City and go Raleigh for so long, and I appreciate everyone that made being there so enjoyable. So thank you. Thanks to everybody.
They won't be as good as we are, but hopefully they'll give you a little something. They're not going to be as spicy as us, but at least you can get a little something out of it. But thank you. Thank you for your time. We're going to jump back into the agenda and slide into the Finance and Policy Committee updates.
Hi, it's Michael Stevenson. We met last week, went through a number of items. There's a couple of added items. I'll mention those at the very end. But first, a presentation by Morgan Simmons with an update on the ADA manual. Morgan, are you going to present that?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, my name is Morgan Simmons. I'm with the city's transit division, and I'm presenting to you the Go Raleigh Access Policies and Procedures Manual. This item was reviewed and approved by the Finance and Policy Committee at the November meeting, and we are bringing it for consideration for full approval by the RTA board. Next slide. Just a reminder, the Paratransit Manual was originally, the current one that we have was originally adopted during the summer of 2017. This manual, I always want to say plan, but this manual is an outline of how the paratransit program operates from all facets for internal staff, vendors, and customers to be able to utilize. The information within it includes, is not limited to, general information about the service area, the hours, things that the customer should expect, eligibility requirements and information, rules of conduct as it relates to our access riders, various how-tos that are important for our access riders to be able to understand and navigate throughout the paratransit program. And then, of course, eligibility information for those access vendors and operators that are interested in participating in the program. Next slide. So the reasons for this update was to ensure that it had the most relevant federal guidance applicable to not only just the program, but also to various sections throughout the manual. We wanted to make the document a little bit easier to navigate through. So we created identifiable sections all throughout so that anyone, whether it be internal staff, customers, or potential vendors, would be able to easily understand which sections were applicable to them. And we also add a little bit more detail to the sections regarding the fair purchasing, what is prohibited customer conduct, vendor eligibility, and of course, the customer privacy protection information. Next slide. So since the October 2020 meeting, which is when we first met and brought this item to the board, staff had an opportunity to review over it a little bit further, and we saw a few things that we felt like could strengthen it even more. So we wanted to at least bring that to your attention before the board approved it. But we added an introductory section. We felt that the current draft didn't have a clear introduction as far as what the program is, what are some of those major federal guidances that guide the program. And of course, just service area information, mapping, just to kind of give a visual of what our paratransit program service area looks like. We wanted to also add a general disclaimer as it relates to what should be expected with emergency situations, such as with the pandemic. What should customers or vendors expect, and who they would need to contact. We also made sure to update all the contact information, and we recognized that we wanted to put both physical and mailing addresses and make sure that it was consistent throughout the document. And last but not least, we made sure that the program application that is attached to the document, to the plan, excuse me, manual, not plan, that it had the most up-to-date application. And we did make a minor update to that application since its original drafting. And so we wanted to make sure it included that as well. So just to recap, this has been the process that we've been in with this particular plan or manual. I keep saying plan, goodness. But we went through the development and drafting of the manual during the winter and summer of this year, of course, with a slight pause due to COVID. We brought this item to the RTA Finance and Policy Committee during the October meeting, in which we provided the RTA Board a 30-day reviewing period. It was reviewed and approved during the RTA Finance and Policy Committee during the November meeting. And now we're bringing it back to the board for its approval, as unfortunately we weren't able to approve it during the November meeting due to loss of quorum. Next slide. So the action that we're requesting today is your approval. Staff is requesting approval of the Go Raleigh Access Policies and Procedures Manual, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mike, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Are there any questions or discussion about this item?
This is Nathan Spencer. I had a question with regards to, does the manual outline, or should it outline growth expectations for paratransit in the region? Because that is an area that's growing quite rapidly.
So we have the public, and because it's a long name, but we have the Human Service Coordinating Plan that kind of gives a better outline of what the region's goals are as it relates to our human service coordinating type programs. And so our program would fall under what the county's goals are. So we have a plan that specifies that, but this particular manual is really more instructional. So how do we go about accomplishing those larger goals that have been set by the county?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Was that your question, Nathan?
Yeah, that answered my question. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any more questions or comments on this item?
This is Karen Ringe. I just wanted to say how much we appreciate, Morgan, you paying attention to all these details that are, important to running an effective service that really responds to all of our riders' needs.
Team effort, but thank you.
Well, I'll just second that. Morgan is a wonderful professional. We're lucky to have her. So with that, I would move that we approve this. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Nathan Spencer.
Oh, sorry, Tulupi. It's probably not my role to take a vote, but I did make the motion.
I'll just slide in for the vote.
Okay. Yeah.
So it has been moved and properly seconded by Michael and Nathan. Again, I'm going to read through the roll call. Please respond with yay or aye or nay, depending on if you agree or disagree. Nathan?
Yay.
Karen?
Aye, yay.
Aye, yay. Michael?
Aye.
Danny? You're muted.
Aye. Daniel.
Morris,
Aye.
Joshua,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well, to Lulapan. Thank you. It's been moved properly second and the motion is passed that we will, what was the motion passed that we're gonna do?
Approve the ADA manual.
Oh, approve the ADA manual going forward. Thank you. Thank you so much, Morgan.
Thank you.
I got confused with all the motions that we were asking. I got lost in it. Thank you
I'm sure it didn't help. I kept saying manual plan.
Thank you very much. Okay, so it looks like we are going to move on to the marketing committee. That was.
No, sorry, Julie. We had a couple more items. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at.
Yeah. So we also discussed the suspended fare and when it might be reinstated. I think the thrust of it was that it's indeterminate at this point when, but something that I think there was a consensus about was that it should be done in concert with the other transit agencies in the region to avoid confusion and to kind of put a consistent message out there. And so staff agreed that would be a wise policy if we can make it happen that way. We discussed the financials, and the financials are not great. We have zero fare box revenue, although a bit of advertising revenue. And so hopefully 2021 we'll see improvements there. There were two additional items that we added to the agenda. One is that we've requested from staff to create, we're calling it a 12-month look ahead schedule, so that maybe even beyond 12 months, but to put critical milestones on a calendar that we can look forward and start planning our decision making around, particularly finance committee. Oftentimes we have to have votes that precede votes at the board that then have to go to city council. So we thought it'd be very helpful to have something that we can kind of look ahead a few months, see what's coming down the pike, that we're thinking about those things in advance. So staff agreed that would be a good idea, and they're going to start drafting that for us to look at. And the final thing was I made an announcement that I have changed jobs, and the relevance of that is the firm I'm with now is the architect for the Rust Bus project, and therefore if there are any actions that Go Raleigh board makes in regards to Rust Bus, that I will have to recuse myself. So I wanted that to be out there for public knowledge. And that concludes the Finance and Policy Committee report.
Michael, this is Karen Ringe. So you're working for, remind me, the architecture firm?
Perkins Eastman, and.
But you're going to.
No, that's my new firm. My old firm was Perkins and Will. It's a bit confusing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I am confused.
Yeah.
And they're doing Rust Bus? I thought that was somebody else.
Perkins Eastman is the architect. The developer is Hoffman. Maybe that's the name you were thinking about.
No, and I'm blanking on.
But well, there were some other consultants who had done some transportation planning for it. That I know we've been briefed on before. Okay. Was it WSP, David, I think, maybe?
Yes, sir. They did do some early work, as like you said, in the planning stages.
That's who I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Michael, this is Morgan Simmons with Transit. I just wanted to remind you about the Title VI presentation.
Oh, did I? Sorry, I skipped that. Morgan made a very comprehensive presentation to us about the Title VI update. And we asked that a condensed version of that be presented to the board. It's a 3-year cycle, and we thought it would be probably the most useful if it was presented in a form that highlighted the changes between the last cycle and this one. Morgan, are you going to present that this time, or is it for the next meeting?
I was going to be able to present the first part of it this time. And
okay, excuse me, I didn't mean to skip it. Then please go ahead.
Oh no, not at all. No, not at all. So good afternoon again. My name is Morgan Simmons with the Transit Division, and I am bringing to you the update to the Title VI and Public Participation Plan. Like Michael mentioned, this plan is has a life of about 3 years. So we're currently approaching the timeline to update it, and so we're in that process now. Because of how massive this document is, we wanted to take an opportunity to bring it to you all in pieces. We will be providing the electronic version of the entire document, hopefully sometime at the end of this month or the very beginning of January, in the hopes to have it approved in February. So that's when we wanted to, we're trying to staff is trying to get into the practice of bringing information to you all as early as possible, and to give you all as much heads up about information that's coming your way. So like it's mentioned on the slide, this was an item, the first part of it was reviewed in the Finance and Policy Committee during the last meeting, just last week. Next slide. So just some general information about this Title VI and the Public Participation Plan. These are plans that are required by federal code and the FTA federal guidance. Our current plans were updated in 2018, and we have two. We have the Title VI plan, and within that plan is the Public Participation Plan. And as I mentioned earlier, it has a 3-year window, and so we are currently up for an update, which we are hoping to have it approved and updated in February of next year. Next slide. So just a quick glance at what this process looks like. When updating the plan, these are a few of the steps that kind of that we have to undergo when going through this process. And so when we initially started, we have to review over the current document just to verify and identify any areas that we know would need to improve it, additional updates and approval, whether it be as it relates to any new federal guidance that has come about, or even some mechanisms that we felt could strengthen the document. But we took this process a little step further this year, just in light of everything that's happened in 2020 with all the social unrest, with the pandemic that has really have us to pivot how we engage and how we outreach. So we wanted to take an opportunity to collect some feedback from not only staff members that are a part of the transit field, whether it be with the system, whether it be with the county, or just staff members that deal with planning and equity. We wanted to take an opportunity to talk with stakeholders as well. So we had a series of listening sessions with various stakeholders, whether it be the League of Women Voters, Habitat for Humanity, the CPN network, even down to South Bloomington Men's Shelter. We're part of these listening sessions where we were able to really gauge how can we better improve our engagement, how can we better improve our outreach, and just create a better network. The last next step in this process is, of course, reviewing the draft document with the RTA board, which is what we're trying to do in a series of meetings. Finally, we'll bring these items to the public, and we'll do that in of course, a socially distanced, friendly way. And then, of course, we'll bring all this item, the final version of the item and everything to the board for its approval, hopefully in time for the February deadline. Next slide. So like I mentioned, it's a massive document, and so each of these folders are representative of every area that we need to ensure that we're compliant in. And so what I'm going to do today is give you a quick glance and what each of these folders, well, what the first set of folders mean. And this was and I did make the necessary changes as per the Finance and Policies Committee's recommendations. Next slide. So the first folder is notices and actions. And so this is the section that we have to ensure that we identify how our notices are published and out there as it relates to our processes that address Title VI. And so we have to have certain information publicized in public areas, whether it be our buses, our public facilities, within our documentation on our website. And so this particular section just outlines exactly where those sections are, what that information should look like. So the notable updates and changes that's between last update and this update was just some wordsmithing to clean up some of the language within the documents, and wordsmithing as in grammar. We updated the contact information as well. We did some minor consolidation of some of the subsections. And so it originally had a complaint form subsection and a complaint instruction subsection. And that kind of goes hand in hand. So we just combined that one. Updated the notation as it relates to what is the status of any investigations, lawsuits, and complaints that have taken place within our system as it relates to Title VI. And we have not received any, we've had 0 incidents on all of those counts. And then finally, we included the definitions of each of the different finding statuses. So if we were to go about an investigation, a lawsuit, or a complaint as it relates to Title VI, these are the various finding statuses that it could conclude with. Cleared being obviously everything is, we found enough evidence to clear of any wrongdoings of any sort, and down to inconclusive, which is we didn't have enough to conclude. Next slide. So the next folder is the public engagement folder, and this is where our public participation plan would live. So a part of this folder is just documents that have been updated since the last cycle of update in 2018. So that would include our Go Raleigh program management plan, which you all adopted this year. And then once you all adopt the procurement manual, which will be coming back to you in a few months, we'll have that in this document as well, because that all is a part of us being able to comply and monitor these subrecipients. And then last but not least, we did add information as it relates to Title VI submissions that have been received from the subrecipients since the last update. Next slide. Last but not least, the facilities and corridor development folder. And this particular folder deals very specifically with environmental assessment and NEPA as it relates to all the transit capital projects that we are undergoing within our current transit program. And with this one, it really was just to ensure that we added whatever planning or NEPA or environmental documents that we have completed since the 2018 update. And so it can't be something that's currently underway. It has to be completed. So such projects as our Navajo Drive sidewalk project would be included. And of course, the initial NEPA work that was done for the New Bern BRT, it would also be included here. Next slide. So after this meeting, we will bring back to you all, of course, the actual the electronic full document, so that you all can start reviewing over the entire document in time for that, hopefully that February adoption and approval. During the January meeting, staff will go through sections 6 through 10, so folders 6 through 10, and then give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions and continue in that engagement in time for February as well. We will provide a public commenting period for this document, and hopefully we'll be able to do that in January through February. And then of course that final review in February. Next slide. So like I mentioned, this is an information item only. We're just coming to you all, just giving you a heads up of what to expect. And of course, do our very best to give you as much time as possible to review all of the items. And so staff is going to continue to review these materials with the RTA over the next few meetings. So no action is needed at this time. but I am open to any questions you may have.
Madam Chair, I have a question if you don't mind.
No, please, Nathan.
This is Nathan Spencer. This document seems to be very timely for our society and our city this year. I wondered two things. One, if it's appropriate for there to, within this document, to be outlining goals for leadership within the agency. One of my concerns on that is that there's not a whole lot of diverse representation within the leadership of the agency and within transportation, and I think that's a mistake, especially considering our ridership and the demographics that make it up. And my next one, sort of the next piece, is it also appropriate or within this document that within the environmental end, there be mention or addressing the future of climate change, because that is, of course, an environmental justice issue for folks.
So to make sure I understand, I'm understanding your first question, because these are questions, not statements, right?
They are questions, yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, so as it relates to the representation, I don't think it would be an issue for us to set goals. We are, right now, we're currently just ensuring that we're identifying what the minority representation is. And so if that is something that the board would like to do, to set a goal, then you're more than welcome to do that, and we can include that in the document. But just that's not necessarily the intent of that particular folder, but it's not to say that it can't be included if that's something that this particular board feels strengthens the document. So we could do that. And we would just have to work with the board to determine what those goals are. As far as the environmental NEPA folder, once again, it's more just to ensure that we are in fact complying with whatever the environmental and NEPA requirements are for those specific types of projects. So depending on the type of project, so for example, like a larger BRT project is going to have a more extensive NEPA environmental requirement than that of like the Navajo Drive sidewalk project. It's a little bit less intense. However, if that is something that the board wants to do to help to strengthen the document, then we'll be more than happy to add that. We'll just have to work with you all to ensure that we are, in fact, reflecting what you all are wanting.
This is Nathan Spencer. I appreciate those answers, and I thank you very much for all your work on this.
Thank you for all of your hard work on this, Morgan. We appreciate you giving us a presentation. Michael, is that a wrap up for policy and finance? Or before I say that, does anybody else have any questions for Morgan? Okay, Michael, is that a wrap up for policy and finance?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, now I know that Karen added two elements to the agenda, the proposed name change, just an update on where we are with that, and the planning department presentation, the proposal for amendments for the equitable development around transit, as we discussed at our last authority meeting.
So this is Karen Wrench. I'm chair of the marketing committee, and I did request updates on those two items. And I actually have thought of a third thing I'd love an update on, and I don't know if there's enough data yet, but I wanted to remind everybody that in November, there was a virtual open house on the Wake Bus Rapid Transit BRT system. And there were supposed to be comments through November 30th. And I don't know if Andrea has any information on that, or if Mila Vega is even available on this call or not, this meeting. But love to hear if there were any particular feedback, or maybe that's at a future meeting when we could actually get a summary of what comments were on that. So, and that might be a presentation at our next marketing committee meeting, actually. Change, Mr. Eatman.
Yes, so I did inquire with the council office this week on that item. So right now I'm waiting to determine if that would be something that the council office wants us to submit as an agenda item, or a Raleigh Transit Authority, a recommendation of the Raleigh Transit Authority item, or if that would be something that that may be brought to the table by our council liaison. So I am waiting on that information. I hope to hear soon. But I have followed up on that again this week, just trying to make sure that we're pushing that as much as we could.
Okay, so when that happens, assuming it does happen at some point, hopefully soon, then it would be helpful to get an understanding of what all needs to happen, I guess, at the staff level to actually implementing this name change. But that's the next step, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So just let us know how that goes. And maybe that's an item, Andrea, for our next marketing committee meeting, if there's an update in January. I don't know if that'll happen that soon or not, but okay. Also David Eatman, what's the status on the EDAP, the equitable development around transit proposals regarding possible changes to the comprehensive plan? Was that presentation to the planning commission or to the city council in November?
So that is a pending item with the planning commission currently. So that is under review. They will be bringing that back up in January at the Planning Commission meeting. And it looks like they're looking at a potentially a February or March approval if all goes well.
Approval by the Planning Commission or the City Council?
That would be the Planning Commission.
Okay. So, all right.
Yeah, I would say to pull back on a February, but I would say that they're probably looking at about a March, and that is for the Planning Commission.
And is it taking that long because there's several items that they're suggesting proposing?
Yeah, I think that there's quite a bit of information there, quite honestly. So yeah, that is a big item. Okay. Again, what we can do is if the board likes, we can provide information on that particular item. We can do that in committee, or I can bring that to the full board in January. So if you all would like an update, we can certainly make sure that that's either provided by transit staff or by planning staff.
Madam Chair, what would you like?
I think it should be brought to committee first to be discussed before bringing it to the full authority.
Well, what's the appropriate committee to review that? Because they're essentially policy changes.
Generally, I would say that it could fall under, it be up to Madam Chair to determine. But certainly finance and policy would be one, because it is policy, as you stated, Ms. Range. But also it would be implemented around BRT routes and stations. So it certainly could fall under route as well. Mm-hmm. So, but I would certainly leave that up to Madam Chair to make that determination.
Is there a way that, because the route committee is pretty much me and Nathan, right? Is there, and I think Joshua sometimes steps into that. No, me, Nathan, I think Danny sometimes steps into it. And policy and finance is more Michael and Joshua. Is that correct?
Each committee has 3 members. I can pull that up, but there are 3 primary members plus the chair, which acts as a member of each committee. So right. There should be 4 listed members for each committee.
Nathan, what committees are you in?
I am just in route. That's the only committee that I'm.
Okay, I was hoping there was some overlap, because I feel like since this could fit both spaces, it maybe it should be brought then to the whole authority. But I think that there should be a conversation before like a more like analyzed conversation being brought to the authority. Does that make sense? Like for more of a detail for us just to make a decision as a group.
Madam Chair, this is Karen Ringe. At this point, I don't know that we actually have any official input unless somebody wants to go and make public comment before the Planning Commission. I mean, I think at this point, aren't we just receiving information? Like we received that report last month on the types of recommendations, although that they're going to be making as amendments to the comprehensive plan. And there are more than one. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about them, but I'm just saying I don't know that we have any authority over them at this point, unless I would assume we choose to make comment before the Planning Commission or even the City Council before they're voted on.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
This is Nathan Spencer. There's a transit committee as part of the Planning Commission, and I wonder whether it makes any sense for us to have sort of a joint route and finance and policy schedule a virtual meeting with this transit committee and have a conversation to see if we can help them in any way and see if there's any synergy there.
Or even provide our input to them. That might be a really good official way that more of us, so that we're not speaking on behalf of the whole RTA, but we could be sharing some of our thoughts on the proposed recommendations.
I actually think that's a great idea because I was thinking like originally taking it to committee, but like you said, this can fall under route or finance and policy, but then it was trying to figure out if there was an overlap. Because Nathan, if you were in finance and policy, then we can all just meet in that meeting and kind of hammer out some of this and throw in some of the route, knowledge or expertise that we have. But I think it might be better for it to be maybe a subcommittee that then possibly meets with the transit group with planning, just to give our insight. I know that, like Karen said, we don't have much control over this, but we can give our input, our insight, and share some of our passion around that. Is that something that we can schedule that can be open to the whole authority or any member of the authority? One moment, Dave. One moment. Is that something that can be open? And the question can be held off to answer in case Daniel's question has something to do with what I'm saying. But is that something that can be open so that the whole authority can attend it? Or not the whole authority, but members of the authority who want to attend and give their input can be a part of that? You're muted, David.
Right.
I think I
David.
muted instead of unmuted there, so my apologies. I think that that's certainly up to the board. It depends on if the board wants to, make that a full board meeting, which requires a quorum. So really, the quorum is the only thing that is really going to drive your decision on whether that would be a full committee meeting or just a subcommittee.
Well, I don't think we're looking for a full committee. We're more so looking to have the authority having an opportunity to meet with those of us that want to, possibly meeting with.
Why don't we just make it like a root committee meeting with or the finance, either one, it doesn't really matter, with their subcommittee, and then we can just all attend if we choose to, but that way we don't have to deal with the full quorum of the entire board, which could nullify the whole thing.
Right, which is what I'm saying. I don't want it to be a board thing because of quorum.
Yeah, so if we have 5 or more members, then we have to do public announcement, and we follow normal board rules. So it has to be less than 5 members.
Why don't we, it's Michael Stevenson, just for efficiency, maybe if Nathan wants to attend the next Finance and Policy Committee and we keep it to 5 members, would that work? So if we have 3 committee members, Tulupi and Nathan would make 5, right?
Yeah, we need to stop at 4.
Sorry?
We would need to stop at 4. At 5, you would have a quorum, and we would need to advertise it like a meeting. Like I say, we can advertise it like a regular meeting. That's not a problem. We just need to know that up front so we can make proper advertisement and announcements.
But if we advertise it like a regular meet, so okay, let me ask the question then, and maybe I'll go through the roll. Who all is interested, maybe by a show of hands, and I can count your hands, in attending this or giving input to this? I see Danny, I see Nathan, I see, okay, so all of us.
Well, I don't have to do it. I'm interested, but I can defer.
Well, I think all of our input is helpful. Like I said, even if we don't have control, we've been talking about how passionate we are about this, and giving them our insight and giving them some of our ideas that we've been batting around, I think would be helpful. So maybe we do just go the route to be on the safe side of it being a full committee. A full meeting. And it looks like we already have 5 people that want to attend. We have at least that from the authority that want to attend. So either way, we're going to be over that number. So maybe we do this like Karen said. We can either put this in policy and finance or route, whoever you all can fight to the death over it before the end of this this authority meeting call, and then we can just figure out what committee meeting to invite the planning committee to.
Yeah, if we plan on having a quorum, I would suggest we just call it a special meeting or a special joint meeting, and that way we can just advertise it as a full board meeting, and everybody can attend.
Okay.
That would like.
This is Nathan Spencer. We can get buy-in from the planning commission subcommittee also to find out their availability. Because if we all meet and there's no one from planning commission, then it's just transit authority.
Yeah, we'll be happy to coordinate that and try to determine an appropriate date and time.
All right, I know Danny wanted to say something.
I thought your idea was great. Over the weekend, I went, there's a new apartment complex on Newbern Avenue out by Northern Tools, if you're familiar with it, which would be several blocks below the Walmart site. And it's about 500 luxury apartment units out there. There's no bus stop, no bus, no nothing, no shelter, no nothing. And the importance of us meeting with planning is that at planning, because that's where text changes come out of also, if we aren't going to have any text changes, that when developers are putting in their site plans for multifamily units and so forth, and they are not putting in a mass transit component like a bus shelter or something to offer the residents there the opportunity for mass transit, then we are fostering a big disconnect. Because we're saying Newbern Avenue is our first bus mass BRT line, and that will be the second luxury apartment complex on Newbern Avenue that there is no bus stop, the bus doesn't go in there, no nothing. So it's hard for me to understand, and especially and I talked to some people in planning, and there is nothing in the UDO, as I understand it. I might be wrong. But there is nothing in the UDO that suggests that we are serious about mass transit at our multifamily apartment complexes that we're developing. And that reflects back on us, reflects back on the planning. It reflects back on the whole idea that we're trying to build a transit-friendly city. That's all I want to say.
Danny, it's Michael Stevenson. There was a text change. It was within the last 2 years. It was presented to us by planning commission members, and it was in fact incorporated. So these projects, I'm thinking, must have gotten their site plan approval before the text change was put into the UDO. So
which do you have firsthand knowledge of anything that's being built under the new text change?
My firsthand knowledge of any particular project?
Yeah, that has been approved since the text change has been adopted.
Not specifically.
When I was chairperson of West CAC before all of this, everything went down, we had a project come before us that was on, I believe it was Chapel Hill and Corporate Center Drive, and they were putting in a bus stop, like a covered bus stop on the sidewalk as part of their project. And I believe that they said that it was required. I'm not entirely sure if it was because of the text change or anything like that.
Madam Chair, if I could jump in real
Thank you.
quick.
Yes, please, David.
David Eatman Transportation, but that is correct. We do have UDO language, which does require us to, or them to construct facilities or pay a fee in lieu if there's already a facility in an adjacent property. We do have facilities within our network currently that have been built through that process. If you want some examples, we can probably pull some that were built by that particular UDO standard. But that is something active now. I would echo what Mr. Stevenson stated, though, that many developments, their original site plan approvals were done quite a long time ago. Sometimes those can be very lengthy. And so some of these elements may be going up now that were predated that UDO change. But staff will be happy to provide anything that that anyone may need. So just let us know.
All right, looks like Danny, you have a statement? You gotta go. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and excuse. Thank you, Danny, for attending. Do we have any more discussion around this? So I think that we kind of have in our mind what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna. Karen, I thought you were about to say something.
Yeah, I was. I just wanted to say it might be helpful to let for somebody. I'm thinking you, Tallulah, since you're the chair, to let our city council liaison, Corey Branch, know that we want to have this joint meeting to discuss this. I would think he would like to know that. He may want to attend, I don't know, since it's about equitable development. And the other thing is, before we actually meet with the Transit Committee of the Planning Commission, David, can you tell us where we could actually see a list of the proposed changes that in the EDAT report? Maybe it's on the website. I haven't looked. So that we actually have some knowledge of what we're talking. I mean, I know we got the presentation, and maybe we just need to look at his PowerPoint. I don't know. I was on the phone, so I didn't see anything last time, but.
Yeah, we can pull together a summary, but also the Planning Commission's agenda is in board docs. So at the same location that the Raleigh Transit Authority's agendas are at. And so that agenda should have a summary of elements as well. If not, I'll be sure. I haven't checked, so I can't say that for sure. But certainly we can provide a summary at a staff level. And if you like, we can get that out as soon as we can put that together. That doesn't have to wait until the next round of committee meetings or board meetings.
Yeah. It'd be good for us to look at that so we don't sound totally uninformed.
And when are we thinking that we can, this is Tallulah again, when are we thinking that we can possibly schedule that meeting, the subcommittee meeting? Or the special meeting, excuse me.
As far as I am not sure. Certainly, that would take coordination with the Planning Commission subcommittee, and we'll be happy to reach out and determine what their calendars look like in January, and we can present that in an email to the board in a doodle poll or whatever, and try to determine what might be the best time. But again, staff can certainly coordinate that, and we can get back to the board. I would ask that if we do send out that doodle poll, the quicker everybody can get us back results, the better, because everybody's calendars from one day to the next change tremendously. So the better, if we can get that locked within about a 48-hour window once we ask, that would be great. So, but again, we'll be happy to coordinate.
How about we do this, Tallulah? Let's get out the doodle poll, and so long as we get 4 or 5 people that have signed on to a specific date, we just go with it, since that's what we kind of need to, anyway. And then everyone else can either fit it on their calendar to show up or not.
All right, we'll coordinate and make sure that this is can work through this, and we'll be in touch with that poll as you suggested there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Karen, did you have any other questions for the amendments to the agenda?
No, it was just getting an update on the virtual open house, the results of the virtual open house on the BRT, and maybe again, I'm going to ask Andrea. Maybe that should be an agenda item for our next marketing committee meeting.
We were planning to schedule that for January, so yeah, we certainly can bring it in January.
Okay.
So that is, our consultant team and BRT team is working on that. I have some basic numbers for you to quickly answer your question. So throughout the month of the virtual open house, we had over 800 visitors.
Wow.
We had almost 100 folks take the survey, and the night of the live Q&A on the 19th, over 60 people joined the live Q&A. But again, the consulting team and BRT team will have full numbers for the entire month of the virtual open house.
Okay. Well, mostly I'm personally interested in kind of what was the general gist of the comments. You know, are they, that would just be helpful to, we don't have to see all of them, but if there's sort of a general tone, I feel like it's our responsibility to listen.
Okay. It's also live on the City of Raleigh YouTube and on the BRT page. So I can send that link in advance of our meeting as well.
Thank you. That sounds perfect.
Thank you.
So thank you both for that. And I just want to just really quick, not to prolong the meeting, but Michael asked for something that I think would be useful to all the committees. He was talking about in policy and finance, maybe having a timeline of things coming down the pipe that we might need to consider or pay attention to, so that we're not kind of facing it in the meeting and trying to adjust. Is there a way that we can also get a timeline for the other committees of things coming down the pipeline that we might need to be paying attention to going into the next committee meeting, so we can kind of think, or if there's other meetings we want to attend to prepare, we can kind of have not necessarily a calendar, but if a calendar is possible, but a timeline on each committee, a timeline for each committee, basically.
Yeah, when I was speaking with Michael about the finance and policy, I told him that we could certainly develop a kind of a three-tiered outline, things that the finance and policy committee looks at annually, things that they look at probably on a quarterly basis, and then you always have those one-off types of things, and those are a lot harder to predict. But what we can do is we can break it down into those three categories for all three committees, and we'll certainly try to put those into a month or the closest month that we can think of that item may occur. So the short answer is yes, we can do that. And but again, I would also say that many items slip up on us just as they do the transit authority. So under those circumstances, we do the best we can. Again, we'll develop the calendar, but it's always subject to change because of those either quick opportunities or those quick unfortunate fires. So, but we will produce that. Yes.
It's always going to be things that are a little out of our control, but if we can at least get it quarterly, so we know what we're facing this quarter to next quarter that we need to deal with, just even if it's just a 3-month snapshot, I think that would be good for us moving forward. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns about anything involving Go Raleigh or the RTA?
Madam Chair, this is Nathan Spencer. I just want to take a moment and appreciate the work folks like Joshua are doing with the rising cases, and I appreciate him going into the fire to fight it while we're sitting at home safely distancing. So thank you, Joshua, for your work.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Is there anything else? All right, well, if there's nothing else, if all hearts and minds are clear, I want to thank you all for your time today for our Raleigh Transit Authority meeting for December 10th. We'll call it to order 5 o'clock. Today, December 10th, 2020. I want to thank you all for your participation all year. I know this has been a heavy year. I thank you for your constant involvement and engagement. I know this has been a heavy lift for all of us. I pray that we all stay safe and that we enjoy and have a happy and safe holiday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everybody have a great holiday. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.